So you've decided to start a video game studio. Let's do a multi-part series where we go through the 6 questions you should ask yourself in the process of starting this studio. For most of these, you're going to ask the question and then you'll probably circle back to it as you answer questions further down the line. The first, and I would argue probably the most foundational question you should ask yourself is why? Why are you looking to start a video game studio? If your instinctual answer is to make the money, then I'm going to tell you to keep looking. This is not the best answer that you should start with. There are lots of ways to make money. Certainly, video game development is one of them, but it is probably not the most effective way to make money. If you are a programmer, consider some other form of software for your startup. If you are an artist or a designer, consider working for a studio or doing contract work, because both of these are more consistent and will likely result in you making more money. That's not to say that there aren't examples of studios that started and made a ton of money. Certainly that is true. There are lots of examples of cases where people started little studios or big studios and made tons of money and ended up selling those studios for lots of money or making games that made tons of money. It's just that that is the exception to the rule. So if make money is your only reason for starting a studio, it's not enough. It's not a good enough reason to start a studio. Make money can certainly and probably should be part of your reasons, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. If you are looking to start a studio as a hobby, then making money isn't necessarily very high up on your list. It's more about exploring new skills and trying a new medium of communication. Those are certainly valid reasons to start a studio. Understanding your why is going to allow you to shape the studio that you are ultimately going to form. Maybe you have a game that you feel really needs to be made and you don't see a path to having it made otherwise. So you've decided to start a studio in order to make that game. What I would say in that case is think about whether or not there is a long-term viable path for your studio. If you're going to go through the trouble of starting up a studio and hiring people and finding office space and all these other things that are required to start a studio, and you really only just want to make the one game, there may be other ways to get that game made that don't involve starting up a studio. Because what you could find is you start your studio, you make your game, and then there's nothing else, and the studio implodes after that first game is made. Having a game that needs to be made is actually a great reason to start a studio, but make sure there's something there behind this game that will allow the studio to continue after this game is finished. Lots of people will tell you that spite is never a good reason to do anything. I actually disagree with that. Spite can be an incredibly powerful form of fuel. Maybe someone told you you can't start a video game studio, or you got fired from another video game studio and you want to prove them wrong. That is actually a reason to start a video game studio. The caution I would give you about using spite as a motivation is while it is a very powerful fuel, it is a fuel that burns very dirty. If you are running on spite for too long and it is your only source of fuel, what can happen is you can start to do damage to yourself and to the people around you as you burn this very dirty fuel. Spite can get you started, but look for other reasons, other motivations to hand off to as quickly as you can in order to do as little damage as possible. Now, maybe you are working at a video game studio and it shuts down and you want to start a studio to save people, to get them jobs and to keep them working. If that's your goal, that's very noble. In that case, what I would recommend is to make sure that you have the money to keep going long enough. Most of the people that you will be forming your studio out of won't be able to work for a long period of time without a salary. So if you haven't secured the financial resources in order to pay those people a salary, you might find that all you've really done is delay the inevitable. You've given them hope of having a place to go, but you don't have the money to pay them. So what you've really done is delayed them from doing the thing that they probably needed to do, which was look for another job. If, on the other hand, you do have a plan, you do have money, or you have a strong lead on money, or you've got a contract set up for your brand new outsourcing studio, or there is some other reason why the financials are secure, then building a studio, starting a studio to save people's jobs is a perfectly legitimate reason. For most of us, the reason is going to be because there is something that we feel we still have to give to the medium, whether that be we have stories that we still wish to tell or kinds of gameplay that we are interested in exploring. This often forms the basis for why these studios start. Start here. Start by really interrogating yourself about why you're wanting to do this. If it's just about the money, probably keep going. Now, there are reasons why for the money might actually be legitimate. If you were working in the video game industry for a long time, like I have been, then your skill set has narrowed to the point where you are qualified to work in the video game industry, but not really qualified to do a lot of other things. Now, again, if you're only doing this for the money, you're probably qualified to hold down a job at a relatively high salary at an existing studio. So scrape even further at the why and as to why you've decided that starting a studio is the way to go as opposed to taking a job. Start here, interrogate this question, really understand the whys behind your starting of a studio, and maybe what you'll find is that this isn't the right way to go, and there are other outlets for what you're feeling right now. We'll move on from why to what your studio is going to be and what kind of game you're going to make in the next video. Special thanks to my members. They provide the resources that this channel needs to keep running. If you're interested in becoming a member, there's a link to that down in the description. We have merch now. If you're interested in picking something up, there's a shelf below this video. That also helps the channel out. If you found this video interesting, give it a thumbs up. That helps YouTube know that it's worth spreading to other people. Have you started a video game studio? Why did you do it? What was the reason that made you take that leap? Have you thought about starting a video game studio? What are your reasons for doing it? What would be the reason that you would decide to start a studio? Let me know these things down in the comments. I will see you again soon. Thank you.